Hi, and welcome to the Growth Shift. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Jennifer, and today I'm joined by accounting recruiter Troy Ashby, founder of Benchmark Search. Troy, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, Jennifer, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Troy, could you tell us a little bit about your background and your company, and how did you originally get started in talent acquisitions?
Absolutely. I'm educated in the accounting world, actually first generation college grad, coming up through my family, and accounting felt like a safe path to go. And with all my research in the green screen of the computers of the library, that's what I decided to do. And after I graduated, got my CPA, went to go work for Arthur Andersen and then Ernst and Young post Enron. But something was missing. I felt like I accounting people are still my people, but I liked the people side of things. And when I started exploring things outside of public accounting, I stumbled into the world of agency recruiting. Spent 13 years at a really large firm, trained really well, learned the ropes, all the ins and outs of the business. But after about 13 years, I was maybe called a midlife crisis. I thought, am I a recruiter? Is that really what I am? Reached out some friends of mine that I trusted in the marketplace and actually left recruiting, went to go work for a middle market CPA firm and did business development for them. So I introduced them to a lot of my clients, a lot of my relationships in town, and quickly realized that the value in what their clients were is this middle market space. And where before it was about Fortune 500 names on the sides of buildings. And I learned that this middle market space, they really could use an expert like myself telling their story, because the middle market world, there's so many. I mean, the US is built on smaller companies. And so 8 years ago this month, I started Benchmark Search. And that was our mission, is to help these middle market companies hire accounting and finance leaders. And so I've been doing this since December of 20 December of 2003. And what a wild ride it's been.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing your story. And so now that we know how your journey began, let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture of what's happening across the industry right now. So, from your seat in the market, what are some of the biggest changes you're seeing in accounting recruiting?
Yeah, I think so. Doing this as long as I have, it's almost I can divide into 4 or 5 different buckets, to be honest. But let's just start with you know, post COVID, and then if we have time, we can go talk about post Great Recession too. COVID was a scary time. Lost a lot of people. People got laid off, and there was a lot of unknowns. But quickly after, probably 2 months post COVID, it was a hockey stick rebound. You know, we put 10 years worth of people unemployment back to work in 1 year. Fast forward that to 2022, and people were looking again. So inflation was on the rise. We were all hearing about inflation. Salaries were, people were getting 20 and 30% raises to switch jobs. And now it slowed, and salaries have leveled off. People have stayed put a little bit longer. Even if they want to leave, they're having to leave for closer to a lateral. And so, one of the big things that we do is a lot of people leave public accounting, and then they were getting to leave public accounting that work a ton of hours, and getting less, better quality of life and more pay. So 2023, 2024 leveled off. We saw a slight uptick in 2025. All signs right now are the 2025 was a lull, and to see steady growth towards the latter part of 2026. All signs still point to, one, my career being a good choice, but that accounting group is going to start seeing more opportunities than maybe they had in the previous 18 months.
Hmm. Why do you think there's an uptick or projected uptick specifically for accounting?
I think, accounting's always been a safe place. I think it's a couple of those factors I just mentioned. People left for accelerated pay increases, and then it was, people don't always leave just because of pay. In fact, we would prefer that they don't leave for pay. But if they could leave for pay and quality of life, there was a lot more jumping. I think that leveled off. I think there was a ton of uncertainty with the current administration, with a lot of ups and down changes where companies weren't really sure, like, we're in growth mode, but is this tariff going to affect us, and what's going to happen next? And so there's a lot of pausing that has calmed. Inflation has come down. I just saw that interest rates for mortgages for the first time in a long time are below 6%. That just came out today. Those are all positive signs that unemployment will continue to be in a spot that helps any profession, but specifically the accounting world.
Hmm, sure. Okay. So, what about looking at client expectations? How have they changed? Are they asking for faster searches, better candidate insights? What are they, how have those trends kind of evolved since your time here?
Yeah, so it's funny because every client's different, and I think by the time a lot of companies come to any recruiting firm, whether it be mine or another, they've probably already tried. They've gave it their 30 or 45-day try, or they've even posted the job, interviewed some people. And so by the time they come to you, it is oftentimes about speed. What we try to tell them is we want to uncover and map the market and make sure that we are going after the candidates that fit their position. So we're still fast, but I don't want to ever lead with speed because I want to give them the best candidate, not the best available candidate. And so they're not able to make, we don't want them to make a mistake, especially on our watch. So we do it with speed, but we never want to lead with speed, if that makes sense. I think when it comes to requirements, one of the I think across the board with all of my clients, with the increases in salaries, I mean, budgets are way up in salary alone, compensation alone. So that naturally comes with more requirements or more expectations.
Okay, sure. So you said you don't want to lead with speed because you want to lead with personalization and finding like the right candidate. How do you do that? What technologies are you using to find the right candidates with the, let's call it, a quick approach versus a speedy approach?
Yeah, yeah. For what it's worth, we are still, last year, or I guess 2024, our average search was 24 days. 2025, our average search was 32 days.
Yeah.
So I think speed wise, it's still twice as fast. And
Yeah.
so what I explained to them is we want to make sure that we fully understand the requirements. We are also not just a resume sender. We are going to come out and meet them in person, understand their culture, really dive in deep before we go out and do that search. And then we want to be able to craft a unique story to attract. Now, when it comes to a lot of this, let's just talk about me specifically, but
Yeah.
really some of my team members, we've been doing this long enough that we already have people that we know that could do the job. So then it's just a matter of would they be interested in this role? So we're going to go to the people that we know first. Where simultaneously we start the outreach campaigns on what we call, like, we map the market. And we do that with several tools. I mean, almost everybody has LinkedIn. So we use LinkedIn. We have two different paid versions, LinkedIn Recruiter and LinkedIn Sales Navigator. We also pay for Zoom Info to do even a deeper dive. And we basically take all of these tools, and I have a guy that helps us with this. And within reason, we basically now know everybody within a certain parameter, normal commute parameter, that could do the job, that have the skills, and then we take it from there. So we know within the first day of how many people, and sometimes that leads us to them expanding their parameters, whether it be, do we consider something a little bit more hybrid, or, hey, we've only got so many shots here, so let's make sure we don't miss. We don't want to adjust later and find out
Sure.
we're holding back on, maybe 10 or 20K when we've only got one shot to get those people in the door.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. So if we were to transition to over what's working well for you now, what would you say is a recent win or moment that made you feel like we have got this. We're doing this right.
This couldn't come at a better time. The last 3 months, we are setting milestone records, both mine personally and benchmark. And I guess what those successes look like is 75% of what we're doing now are exclusive searches, and we call them our engaged search. It allows us to go deep, fully committed. They get exclusive rights to those candidates, and we have the exclusive right to those searches. And so what I found, and we've been doing this for a couple of years and have a great track record. We've just really honed in on our processes and our value adds and helping them with more than just the search. But we're filling 100% of those jobs, and we're doing it in the same time frame. And what that does is, most recruiters, and even my first 13 years, work 12 to 15 jobs per recruiter, and we are working 1 to 3 jobs per recruiter. And that's fine if we're able to get all of those searches successfully done. we're winning in that place. One of the things that we've done in addition to that is we don't want to be just a recruiting firm. We don't want to be just seen as a service provider. We want to come alongside them and be a partner. And so we now help them with interview techniques, and we give them a hiring roadmap for at the beginning of every search, basically telling them the questions that we think that they need to ask. Some of these, we're giving them different ways to compare and contrast, obviously our feedback. And then post, we're helping them with onboarding, retention strategies, and even alongside them for whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 5 years, however long we're with them, we also are give them access to do a deep dive and do a check on their entire company and how are they with hiring and retention and benefits and culture, and then we can help coach them on ways to improve that across the board. And it's been a lot of fun. Like, it takes more time, but to be able to sit down with these founders and CEOs and CFOs and presidents and talk to them about holistically about their business, I'm having more fun today than I ever have.
Yeah, I could see that. And also it brings so much value and it's less transactional and more partnership. I
Yeah.
could see that. You
Yeah.
talked about the deep dive. How do you go about doing that? How do you help a company look at this deep dive?
Yeah, so it starts with a quick 2-minute survey. We have it out on our website. Actually, it's almost to be on our website, but I do have it on my LinkedIn. I send them a link. So anybody that wants it, anybody can take it for free. So it goes through a series of questions that we've identified as, value proposition, culture, retention, and compensation. And then it gives them where they're strong, where they're weak, or opportunities for improvement. And then after that, completely free, we can have a consultation call and give them suggestions and ideas on items that are maybe opportunities for growth.
Awesome. You mentioned a lot of great services you're offering, in addition to the searches, the onboarding and the retention and the deep dive. What kind of automations or AI are you using to help remove some of that busy work so you can spend more time actually building those relationships and advising your clients?
Absolutely great question. And we are using automation. One of my favorites is, and almost everybody that I know now is using some sort of a note taker. And we are using one specific to the recruiting industry. And what that's done is every candidate interview that anybody on my team does and any client intake call that anybody on my team does, or even live and in person, once that's done, everything that we would have done post that meeting is, one, automatically put into our ATS, and then two, packaged in a way that we would normally send it externally. So let's go back to that hiring guide. That hiring guide, based on their job description, our intake, and prompts that I have laid out in there, gives me that hiring guide that of course we have to tweak a little bit, but it is now ready to go with some very small tweaks. So that is the one that I am the most bullish on. It's allowed us to do almost twice the amount of activity when it comes to clients and candidates. Definitely twice as much candidate time because the documentation stuff is so hard, and because it talks with our ATS, it's even better.
Sure.
We do use some sequencing, and we've been doing it for a couple of years, and we kind of changed the way that we're doing it because everybody's doing it. So we're hyper personalized, more on the lines of remembering us than it is on the cold outreach side. Ways to share, whether it be my Beyond the Ledger podcast, or here's a win that happened at Benchmark, or sharing just nuggets of a piece of collateral that we have written, trying to get beyond the noise. But also, this is a world of people only remember you if you are rememberable or if you're staying in front of them. And so a lot of what
Yeah.
we do is really top of mind awareness stuff. There's still a little drip when it comes to cold outreach. And in fact, I literally, before we jumped on this call, I just placed a controller for a longtime client of mine. And we were kind of looking back because we have like 100 people in common. And that was an automated initiation
Mm.
that she bit. And that was something, we do like I understand exactly who my client profile is and exactly who our candidate profile is. And so my goal is to know all of them in this market. And so
Yeah.
I have the list, and then we do drip on them, but I've pulled back on the things that you and I both get that might seem over aggressive or over salesy, where mine
Hmm.
are fewer messages over a longer period of time and can't replace the phone call. it is very curated, and I think it takes some adjustments. You
Yeah.
have to adjust it in a way that is successful, and I think we found a really good formula right now with the pace that we're using it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Sounds like a lot of things are working really well for you guys right now. But we know it's not always smooth sailing. If you're looking at some of the biggest challenges you've faced, what are some of the challenges that you're up against right now?
Yeah, so one of the biggest, like, just things that really sticks out, and I don't see it as a mistake. I see it as a lesson to be learned. We were, we were blowing and going, and we were having so much success that I hired faster than what I probably should have internally. It's funny, right? Hearing a recruiter talking about hiring mistakes, but I definitely hired more than I should have, and or wasn't as successful as exiting a few people. I am a really, really, like, I love people, and I give everybody the benefit of the doubt. But I think with our growth, we were twice as big as we are today, 18 months ago. But the crazy thing is we are not only still doing the same volume of activity, but also more profitable. And I wanted people to be in our ecosystem, people that to win. And maybe honestly, I was trying to build something that wasn't sustainable yet. So that was the first thing. That's a big one.
Okay.
The other one is, well, let me talk about what I also got from all that. We now have a learning management system that is ready to onboard anybody that came in any of the roles that we may hire. And it's synchronous and asynchronous. And we had to work on that over the last 6 months because it was all synchronous, then it was all asynchronous. And now we've got this really cool way to get people onboarded, and it allows them to do it at their pace. Yes, it's going to take about 2 months, but they can get it done in 3 weeks or 4 weeks if they want. No expectations on my part, but they can accelerate that if they need to. They can go back to it if they need to. And with that, the note taker that I was telling you about, all of our forms, all of our standard forms are in the note taker. So not only does it give them a transcript, it also gives them the output. And that has been something that is really, really taken off. The other thing I already alluded to, I spent the better part of the first part of maybe the latter part of 2024 and the first part of 2025 over reliant on AI tools and changing who I was. I'm in the people business, and when I took a deep dive back in our phone time, we were more and newsletter focused than we were conversations. And so it was a tweak. It was really something just to kind of reflect back and say, how can we do both?
Hmm.
And found a really good balance.
Yeah. So you brought up an interesting point. Over relying on AI. What does that look like? I mean, I know I heard you say that email and not phone time, but what does the over relying on AI look like?
I'll tell you what it looked like for me. Exhausting ourselves in the perfect message and X number of sequences. And there are experts out there that do that. And you've got to A/B test them. And we spent a lot of time. I specifically was doing it for the team with some tweaks, and they could edit it and
Yeah.
adjust it. But it was assuming it was going to just blow up overnight, and we gave it a lot of time. But I think during that time, we lost some of the connections piece. You still have to move that needle. And my decision makers are CFOs, business owners, PE firms, and they may or may not see those. They might see one. I mean, we won some even when the sequencing wasn't that good, but was the hit rate as beneficial as me picking up the phone and out, reaching out and
Yeah.
letting them hear my voice? Not necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, I can totally relate to that. And I think some of it is the novelty of it. You're like,
Yeah.
this is going to make it better.
Yeah.
And I can make it better. It's pretty good, but I can make it better and then better and better. Look at what they chat my friends on the computer just did for me. And
Yeah.
I come from a, marketing background, so I totally get that. And it sounds like you're doing a lot of marketing for your business too. That
Oh,
way,
yeah.
AI, as amazing as it is also lethal because you can lose some of the human element by making it so perfect. Because as humans, none of us are perfect, really.
Yeah. It's true. I'll let you on a little secret. When I do put them in a sequence, I might accidentally put in a couple of misspellings, bad punctuation, or a lowercase where it shouldn't belong. That
Right.
shows humanness, right?
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah,
people crave.
completely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, no, no. I agree. I mean, and we're all, I don't want to use the word victim because it's not a victim thing, but we're all responsive to AI and we're thinking like, was this from a human? Is this a
Yeah.
robot? I
Yeah.
don't know. So keeping that human element and not overusing it is so critical. So I get that. I'm guilty of that too, but in my mind, it was like a new toy for me to play with.
There's so
You know?
many. And I'm,
Yeah.
I've joined 2 different coaching cohorts and other leadership groups, and everybody's got something. There's a bunch of bells and whistles. I do think that if you are going to choose to do it, adopt quick,
Yeah.
but also get rid of it quick. I think you can get
Yeah.
analysis paralysis with all of the tools and bells and whistles out there. But I would say try it, see what you think, and then
Yeah.
don't
Pick a
be
few.
afraid to say that's not the one.
Yeah, right. No, totally agree. Well,
Yeah.
that's such good perspective and wanted to ask kind of what does the future look like then when you think about the next 6 to 12 months, what are you most focused on?
Yeah. So right now, focus on getting 2 more people hired to the team. Like I said, I mentioned earlier, we average 1 to 3 jobs per recruiter, and we're bumping up on that about every 3 or 4 weeks, which is an indication that I need to hire here myself. So that's the first one. And then we are currently piloting. I'm wildly excited about it. And I don't have it fully formulated for you to share it today, but I'm piloting it with 2 of my clients right now where we are actually coming on as recruiter as a service, where it is basically all that stuff I told you I was doing for free. One of my clients, was so enamored with the way that we were able to help them through it. And he was like, well, I've got these other positions and can you help me with those? And, because you've helped so much with this. And so he and I mean, as the owner of the company, sat down and said, well, help me vet through this, what this might look like. And so we're developing this recruiter as a service. He's helping me kind of work out the kinks from a buyer standpoint. And I've got another company on board right now and what that looks like. But, monthly retainer, 6 to 12 months, recruiting as a service, not really HR, although I do have the opportunity to have a bolt on to that, but I want to get this piece formulated first. And we're going to let 5 companies onto the platform once it's fully vetted. And that will allow us to service the clients effectively and also help me to hire without the ups and downs of our business because most of what we do is direct hire placement and that's, accounting leadership roles. And so you may get 4 placements one month, 1 placement the next month, and it's real lumpy. Most people in recruiting they will tell you, and I'm not looking to sell benchmark, but they will tell you the best thing you can do is that, and everybody loves a recurring revenue stream, right? And so from a business owner's perspective, I have less interest in the temp side. We will help with interim placement at a high level or while we find them their direct hire, but this allows the best of both worlds where we are with them for 6 or 12 months. It spreads out the cost for them. So they're not getting these really big checks. And then it also come with a discount because of the recurring revenue and helping us be able to set up our operational costs and hiring alongside them. That's what's coming up. And I cannot wait to kind of roll that out to the market.
Yeah, that's super exciting. It sounds like you have a really bright future.
So excited.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, on that note, such a good note to end on. Troy, for listeners who want to connect with you or learn more, where's the best place to find you online?
Yep. Best place is LinkedIn. Troy Ashby, ASHBY is the easiest place. Everything will be from there. But, we also have a podcast called Beyond the Ledger, and that's on anywhere that you would look to get your podcasts, including YouTube. But those are the 2 best places and happy to connect. And I love talking to people and giving them market intelligence. It does not just have to be this placement oriented job search deal. I get the most reward out of talking to somebody who is thinking about maybe next year hiring and or on a job search. And so if I can add value, absolutely, I'm here for it.
It's awesome. Troy, thanks so much for sharing your experience and perspective. This has been great. And to all my listeners, thank you for listening to the Growth Shift podcast. We'll see you next time.
See ya.